that you are in some danger of flying objects and bright sparkling metal.
People just don't expect the unexpected, and so if you can provide the unexpected with a few exclamation points after it, people visualize it very strongly. They remember it, and they appreciate it. That's one thing I try to do in the shows. Play into the way the human mind works, just fundamental caveman reactions people have. People are very primitive. You know, there's very simple things. There's sound, there's vibration, fire, things happening really fast. I'm old-fashioned. I like real things that go boom. All these things just key off certain reactions from people. You go into kind of a survival mode. The bottom line is it's just entertainment. You have to keep upping the ante in one way or another. After things calm down, people realize it was just a joke. I've always been a firm believer that you can have that intensity that's usually generated only when you're being mugged, or maybe someone's trying to murder you, or you're in a war fighting people, without having all of the risk and all of the negative things that usually are associated with really extreme experiences. That's one thing I try to do in the shows. I try to create that sort of intensity without creating a death zone.
Hey, who wants to see me drive under it?
You can drive under it, it's all right. I want to do stuff that's right on the edge of being legal and probably a little over the edge. Now, what's this? I originally came out to San Francisco because I got offered a show when I got out of college by one of my professors, Gasoline. And she asked me what I was going to do like a few months before the show, and I said, well, I'm going to modify these billboards and then take photos of them and have the photos in your gallery. And she goes, well, are you going to get permission to do that? And I said, no, I'm just going to do it. And she goes, well, we can't do that. That's against the law. And I went, you know what? Huh. And so I did a bunch of billboards, did about 8 billboards, and said, I'm not going to be able to do this for the rest of my life. I can't just do these billboards. I got to think of something else. This will get it going. So I just sat down and I thought about what I was interested in, what I could do, what I might want to do. I decided that corporations are the people who just get to do that on a daily basis. They get to break the law every day and get away with it. So I figured, why not be a company? First, it was just a couple friends of mine, and then people were just like seeing these shows and saying, wow, I really want to help out and be involved in this. And I just came up with the idea of Survival Research Laboratories. It developed into a real organization. I've been doing it now since 30 years. Back then, the economy was shifting from a kind of a more industrial economy to the tech economy, and it was just dozens of factories back then that were just abandoned. I mean, no one around and no security, just junk. I had worked for a couple years before I went to college, and so I did technical work, fabrication work. I'm making robots for the Air Force, target robots. I appreciated the practical aspect of very powerful tools and technologies and equipment from that time, but I also really appreciated not doing anything practical with it. In fact, I hated the practical angle of it. I just became a slave to the impractical. I draw all the parts out in a 3D program, and then I basically print them on the CNC machines. This is just a kind of a quick sketch of some parts for a finger. Basically, it'll be a long finger, like about 8 feet long, and it'll be using this synthetic rope, which is very strong, and it'll be able to curl around about 520 degrees, and it'll be tapered, so it'll be able to move the end very quickly. But a lot of this stuff's so simple, you don't really need to draw it. At least I don't. I can see, I have machines planned off like 5 to 10 years it's going to take me to even do them. I keep 5 or 10 years ahead of where I am in terms of, it's easy to think up a million things. Your mind can go at the speed of light, but once things get down to earth, it just takes a long time. You know, I've always considered myself a pretty ordinary person. I just like to do kind of unusual things. Some pretty advanced stuff, but you know, the focus ultimately is just to put on a show. I didn't have a whole lot of respect for the art world either, and the sort of fake kind of atmosphere around the arts. Being part of some kind of a financial preservation system, investment system for wealthy people, which was basically how I came to see the art world. And so I just decided to shift my interests to a place where I could take advantage of the commercial world that I didn't want to be part of. You know, I wouldn't really call myself part of the art world. No one tries to buy any of my machines. More. Now press this one, press the other one. All the way.
And your son seems to be really excited around all the machines.
He loves them. He knows how to run a couple of them. He can really drive a few of them. I used to keep him in a cardboard box when he was like 6 or 8 months old with his toys and stuff, and I'd be running those CNC machines or drilling parts and stuff, and he'd be sitting there watching in his cardboard box, you know, hanging out at the shop. He'd sit there all day with me.
What is this one called?
It's just called the Big Arm. The names from just are pretty generic.
Dad, do some more.
The less like art,
Dad,
the
just
better.
do some more of them.
So just the Big Arm. There's the running machine.
I want to do a running machine.
Yeah, the running machine needs to be fixed. It got broken in Amsterdam a little bit. So
In the show,
it got broken in the show.
I know the spark shooter.
Yeah, we can run the spark shooter. If we get some more gas for that, we could have some fun with the spark shooter. And the spark shooter's over here. It's pretty simple. It's basically got a couple of big laser capacitors in there. Now you can see here what the inside of it looks like. This is the high voltage transformer, and these are the capacitors. Those are the diodes. The energy in the capacitors vaporizes the metal. If you put a little bar of metal in here, it's a high carbon steel rod, and then there's a magnetic field, and that magnetic field pushes the metal into a ball and then shoots it out at about 150 miles an hour or so.
How did you injure your hand?
I injured my hands working on a show that we were going to do in San Francisco back in 1982. A friend of mine had given me a manual on how to make solid fuel rockets, but like a real technical manual. I made one, or made 3 of them, and I just was handling it too roughly, and it blew up. I mean, the stuff is really sensitive. People, if you drop one, it'll blow up. Warning, the energy stored in these capacitors is lethal. To prevent any chance of shock, this capacitor must be discharged before handling. But we've had a couple of different high energy type devices like this. You might want to get back here with the camera just because of the metal might spray in that direction a little bit. It charges up to 20,000 volts. Now I'm going to fire it off in that direction. I thought I was being careful enough, but I wasn't. I was knocking a pin out of the middle of one of them and blew up and blew me in the air, you know, blew all my clothes off. Almost killed me. You know, I had some great doctors who knew about what I did with Survival Research Labs, and they said, you know, I know these other doctors who will they'll take your toes and put them on your hand. You know, you'll be able to work again.
So you're short a few toes?
I am, yeah. I am, but you know, I go jogging. I'm not a sports person, so.
Can you do that again?
Pardon me? Oh yeah, I can do it again. Now it can be charged. We use this a lot of times in shows to set fire to things at a distance. If you aim it up high, it'll go about 400 feet probably. Okay, now it's loaded. Now I'm going to go over here and hit this. You hear that little snap there?
Yeah.
Now it's safe. You see what it does to the end. It just basically vaporized it. You know, in the 90s, it just got exponentially more expensive to to do this stuff and to do the shows, and I found myself just drowning in debt. And then I just hit on the idea of buying and selling equipment. Someone said, well, you should try selling this stuff on eBay, because we would sell it to dealers. And I said, that's a good idea. And like within a month or two, all my debt was paid off. You know, I had money. It just basically lets me work part-time so I can do SRL the other part of the time. I mean, I can show you some of the stuff that we're working on now, because I just got this thing, which is a very advanced 6-axis robot for $1,600. It's like a $60,000 robot. It's from 2004. You know, I've had a couple of them before. Like we had a smaller robot where it was like picking meat off of this big table. That machine was programmed incorrectly to spin all the way around. It ripped all the wires out. The programmers weren't mechanical engineers, so they didn't know that you can't do that with a robot. Yeah, I think the shows will continue to become more lifelike. I mean, ultimately, it's just about making a world that's believable, that looks alive. I mean, I'd love to be able to grow machines. I hate, you know, I have no love for the process, which is very cumbersome, and I would love to just tweak some DNA and have it grow into the big arm, you know? Ultimately, that's what my son will probably be able to do. I would love to live and participate in the integration of machines into the human world so that machines have some sort of co-equal place with humans. It's been predicted in the movies for years, but usually not in usually in a frightful setting. Basically, when machines sort of grow in an organic way and they're not too planned out, they come across as more living things. And there's an accretive kind of process that goes along where every part isn't ordered out of a catalog or something like that, which is how most things are manufactured. Most things are just planned and planned and planned and planned and planned. You know, there's no room for evolution. And so these machines are just dictated by what's available, what I can find. And it doesn't really matter because they don't have to do anything that complicated. They just need to work and do something interesting in a show. Setting down in the middle of a city, an urban setting, and a crowded city, and running all these machines, and it has some pretty extreme repercussions sometimes. There was a video screening of one of our events at the Roxy Theater. While it was happening, we put the V1 on a trailer and towed it right up in front of the theater, and then we just fired it at full power right in front of the theater, right as our SRL tape was ending. There was thousands of people surrounding us, and we just kept running it, and then all of a sudden, every cop car in the city surrounded us. 20 cops would walk up just with their guns pulled, pointing at us. And we were just laughing. We had our hands up. And then we had a bunch of plants in the audience, and they all started chanting, "Let him go, let him go." And pretty soon, you had 1,000 people all screaming, "Let him go, let him go." And the police just were going, "Man, this is a riot. Let's get out of here." And then the captain comes out and he goes, "That's kind of cool. Can you run it a little bit?" And I said, "Sure." So I cranked it up again, and I just punched it, and then I just turned away from him, and I just acted like I was doing something else, and then I just hit the gas. And I just was running, and he was behind me going, and finally he just grabbed me from behind and lifted me off the ground. And I was like, "Oh, shut it off." And then I went, I mean, whenever I've had the chance, I've done things like destroyed the buildings that the exhibit was in, and had the police coming there every day, and had the fundamentalist Christians after me, and I've gotten enough people in trouble in the art world where I don't get full-time resident status in the art world. That's why people can look at these events as actual, narrative. It entertains me to learn about new things all the time, and always to be working and changing direction, and I just like to get new tools, equipment. I like to deal with new technologies every day. The essence of a prank is, you create something that nobody expects, and do it in a way that after things calm down, people realize it was just a joke. That you weren't actually trying to kill a bunch of people. It was just a joke. You were just playing a practical joke on somebody. Just kids messing around.